To cheer or to cry? That really is the question, isn't it? As Amazon announces that they will begin working on a Lord of the Rings massive multiplayer online RPG. Okie dokie then, this is not necessarily the way I imagined things to turn out when Embracer Group announced that they had gained access to the Lord of the Rings movie rights, which is by now a completely separate and more or less unique, essentially, property from the book rights, of course. Now, this makes sense from Amazon's perspective, as they're already engaged in a little bit of a hairy legal dispute over the Lord of the Rings debacle, which apparently them having tried to sell, well, merchandise and even expand on the story in ways that they didn't actually have the rights to, and their relationship with the Tolkien estate is not exactly sparkling at the moment. Whereas, from Embracer Group's perspective, of course, getting into bed with Amazon from a financial point of view is an absolute no-brainer, because despite multiple recent high-profile failures, Amazon is still building vacation houses in Malibu from sheer gold bricks. Their financial muscles are hardly diminished after the tremendous fuck-ups of, for example, the Rings of Power. But, as we mentioned Satan, he does appear. Here's the thing. Amazon has already tried to make an MMO in New World, which wasn't an abject, absolute, disastrous crater-in-the-ground failure, but it certainly wasn't a success either, reinforced by the fact that a little bird has whispered in my ears now repeatedly that Amazon has essentially pulled all future content support for New World. Oh, they're still going to patch it, occasionally, they're going to run an event here and there, but any and all actual plans for future expansions or content is dead. Which, considering the fact that they're now moving on to a Lord of the Rings MMO, only makes sense. Why would you want to support competing MMOs, as New World and the Lord of the Rings one would be more or less in the same kind of sphere of influence, different to their actually successful Korean MMO Lost Ark, even though Amazon is doing their damnedest to ruin its success in the West as well by censoring the sexy outfits. Because, you know, us filthy, dumbass Westerners, we don't like sexy things, apparently. Ah, the good old days when the slogan "sex sells" was still considered to be the Bible's own words. Anywho, they also, of course, tried to make a Lord of the Rings TV show in the form of the Rings of Power, which can best be described as a nuclear-powered piston fuck of J.R.R. Tolkien's legacy, hopes, dreams, and future memory. I mean, that will go down in the history books as one of the cruelest and most puerile insults that one organization is ever capable of leveling towards another individual. So, is there any hope whatsoever? Well, I want to say no, but at the same time, despite all of my efforts to drown that piece of myself, there is still this tiny, tiny, tiny little spark of hope and optimism that remains alive despite my best attempts to snuff it out within my cold, dead heart. Namely that, okay, the reason why I was a bit excited for New World is because Amazon does indeed have infinite cash. And initially, the idea for New World was rather appealing. The initial pitch, mind you, was a game widely different from what actually arrived. The thing was, they would make a game about Native American mythology and this whole colonial mindset. So you'd have Spanish conquistadors essentially show up in America, but America was actually filled with ghosts and monsters and wendigos and shit. When I played the super early alpha, it actually felt a little bit scary. The open world PvP was a massive thing. You could build your own bases wherever you wanted, and then when you wandered beyond the outer areas, there were monsters in the fog. It felt like a bit of a dangerous universe. It felt infested with ghosts and spirits and barely understood creatures crawling in the dark. When it actually arrived, it was kill zombies, kill zombies, kill zombies, kill more zombies, but this time they're going to be wearing a cask on their back. They focus grouped away anything and everything that was actually interesting from the game, resulting in a game that, despite its vast breadth, as it really did have a tremendous amount of mechanics, none of them were actually worth caring about. It had all the depth, as they say, of a piss puddle. And as for the Rings of Power, Oh lordy, we don't need to go into that particular wasp's nest now, do we? It was a disaster from beginning to end that resulted in Amazon needing to censor their own reviews on it for weeks. It was an unmitigated disaster. Even now, Amazon is doing their damnedest to try to limit the fallout, as the investors are still rioting over being, well, straight up lied to, as Amazon told them there's no way a Lord of the Rings property could ever fail. Well, as things turn out, that was not entirely correct, now was it? But Embracer Group, on the other hand, so Embracer Group has primarily earned the name for itself by hoovering up high-value, potentially high-value at least, IPs and good old beloved franchises for glass beads, promises, and the occasional jerk-off behind the shed, I presume. God only knows how they do it, but they keep gaining access to really, really powerful and big deal IPs for seemingly nothing. It's one hell of an achievement. And they are saying all the right things. For example, Then Volition pitched their plans for the next Saints Row, which turned out to be a massive failure, to be fair, but still. Their pitch from Embracer Group's perspective was basically, we're the professionals here, we are the game artists, and we totally know how to reboot the Saints Row franchise in a new, fresh and modern direction that will be super hip and popular with El Kiddos. And Embracer Group, like good investors, went, okay, I mean, you're the professionals here, so we're simply just going to give you the money and allow you to create your magic. Great. That is the ideal game producer, game investor relationship. The only problem was that in this case, the Embracer Group's open hand of charitability was swiftly filled up with an endless tide of fecal matter. Unfortunate. To the point where Embracer Group later announced that they would have to rework their entire approval process because of Volition's enormous fuck-up. Which, to be fair, was pretty much the only solution at that point. But, nevertheless, in an ideal world, Amazon has endless money, Embracer Group has access to some talented personnel, and the willingness to actually let them do whatever their talent designs, blah 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 blah, wishes to do to create a good thing. In an ideal world, this combination of infinite money and artistic freedom, allowability, permissibility would create something really, really good. Because one of New World's primary failures was that it wasn't actually set in a universe. There was nothing there. There was no backstory. There was a tiny bit in the mid-early game of the game where they are actually building up a little bit of story about the universe, but then they swiftly stopped again, and there was no actual history there. Like, why are there zombies everywhere? Why don't anybody die? Why are there bears made of metal walking around? It's awful. With Lord of the Rings, you might be able to take all of the relative mechanical excellence of New World and place it into a vibrant, living universe where you can see some of your favorite characters. Now they have access to the movie rights as well. You could go on adventures with Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli, etc. Now, I would prefer if they took a different direction from the already existing MMO, which is PvE only, although I do believe they've introduced some sort of a PvP event mode or something now, battlegrounds kind of thing, but I would like to see some PvP. Now, I don't know if you should be able to play as the bad guys, because that's very non-Tolkien-y, but you should at the very least have access to PvP battlegrounds where you can play as them there, as kind of like hero classes, where you play an Uruk-hai or a Goblin or a Troll, etc. I do like that solution, but I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to playing the bad guys either, as it would give you access to a very, very different aesthetic. Honestly, if I were to give you my dream scenario here, what I would really love is if they maybe made something along the lines of, oh god, what's that game? That, Sword of the Conqueror or something? I don't remember. The one where you command little formations, little units of troops into battle. Make it sort of like a Mountain Blade style thing on the PvP front, where you can actually command your formations. Or, was it Kingdom Under fire? There was an MMO like this where you actually commanded armies. That would be incredibly cool in the Lord of the Rings setting, where you could have rangers, swordsmen of Gondor, fountain guards, cavalry, all of this kind of nonsense. That would be my ideal MMO, honestly, because the RPG elements of it all, well, you could absolutely make that work, no doubt, but this is already a universe with established heroes. And simply adding on more heroes, doing what the other heroes already have done, to me feels like it lessens the setting a little bit. It's always one of my main complaints about settings like World of Warcraft, the MMO, for example. If absolutely everyone is a hero, then at the end of the day, really, no one's a hero. Everyone's the same goddamn little bastard waffling around with their epic mounts and bullshit gear. I would really kind of prefer more of a command style sort of thing, or something a little bit different, but that would be a pinch risque, mayhaps. And hey, if nothing else, I would love for maybe Smilegate to have a go at it. Now, they're probably a bit too Korean, mind you, but more of a spectacle fighter fighting vast hordes of enemies, or even like one of those old third-person games, like the War of the Rings games. No, War of the Rings. There was a series of movie tie-in games where you played in third person and you fought huge hordes of orcs as Gandalf and Aragorn and stuff, slaughtering them by the thousands. That too was tremendous fun. Maybe something like that, but in an MMO setting would also be absolutely awesome. Something a little bit innovative would be nice, because again, the primary draw of New World was actually when it had some innovative ideas, rather than when it became just the gruel basic bitch MMO that it eventually ended up being. Now, whether Amazon or Embracer Group, for that matter, has the vision to carry this through, well, I want to say wait and see, but for the moment, I will start out from a position of cautious negativity, because Amazon has already messed up both an MMO and Lord of the Rings. The odds that they will somehow be able to combine these two and create gold, I don't know about that. But hey, the Lord of the Rings franchise at least gets another chance at not being complete shit, which is positive, maybe? Or perhaps we should simply stop buggering the corpse at this point and move on to raping the next franchise. Do let me know what you think in the comment section down below, because I'm actually genuinely curious whether or not anyone is actually interested or excited for a Lord of the Rings MMO created by Amazon. Bearing in mind that I'm assuming Embracer Group will be able to at least yank their chain a little bit, but in the relative power comparison between Embracer Group and Amazon, well, David and Goliath would be an incorrect comparison, because David, of course, won. Perhaps the old fable of the frog and the scorpion would be more correct, where they both end up sinking at the end of the day. God help me. Anywho, Lord of the Rings MMO. Cautious negativity. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.